The desert heat pressed down like a living thing, even at 0630. Specialist Marcus Delgado wiped sweat from his brow as he loaded another pallet of MREs onto the forklift. The motor pool smelled of diesel, sand, and the faint metallic tang of spent ammunition from the nearby range. Camp Arifjan never slept completely. Generators hummed 24/7, Humvees rolled past in low gear, and the distant call to prayer from outside the wire mixed with the American rock music blasting from someone's barrack speaker. Marcus had been here 8 months, 24 years old, broad-shouldered from years of gym PT and warehouse work back in San Antonio. He kept his head down and his mouth shut. Most soldiers thought he was quiet by nature. Only a few knew the truth. He was waiting for revenge. It started 2 years earlier at Fort Bliss, Texas. His best friend, Sergeant Jamal Washington, had been the kind of soldier everyone loved. Funny, sharp, always ready to help the new privates. During a live-fire training exercise gone wrong, a negligent discharge from another soldier's weapon cut Jamal down. The shooter? Corporal Tyler Hayes. Rich kid from Virginia. Father a retired colonel with connections. The investigation ruled it an accident. No charges. Hayes walked away with a slap on the wrist and a transfer. Jamal's family got a folded flag and empty condolences. Marcus got nightmares and a burning hole in his chest that nothing filled. He requested deployment to Arifjan deliberately. Hayes was here now, promoted to sergeant, working in logistics just like Marcus. Same base, same rotations, same DFAC line sometimes. Close enough to watch. Close enough to plan. Marcus had spent months gathering information quietly. He knew Hayes' schedule, his habits, his weaknesses. He knew Hayes bragged about his father's influence in the officers' club. He knew Hayes cut corners on inventory reports to make himself look good. Small things at first, then bigger ones. Revenge didn't have to be loud. It could be slow, surgical, the kind that ruined a career without a single bullet. That morning after breakfast, Marcus sat in the supply connex with his friend specialist Lena Park. She was a 92Y like him, sharp-eyed, no nonsense, originally from Seattle. They'd become close over late-night inventory shifts and terrible coffee. "You're doing that thing again," Lena said, not looking up from her clipboard. "What thing?" "Staring at nothing like you're plotting world domination." She finally glanced at him. "Or plotting something smaller, like Hayes' downfall." Marcus didn't deny it. "He doesn't deserve to wear that rank. Jamal is dead because of him." Lena sighed. "I know the story. But Rook, you've been carrying this for 2 years. What's the end game? You ruin his career, then what? You feel better?" "I'll feel justice." "Justice or revenge?" She set the clipboard down. "There's a difference." Before he could answer, the door opened. Sergeant Tyler Hayes walked in, clipboard in hand, sunglasses perched on his head even though he was indoors. He still had that cocky grin that made Marcus's fists tighten. "Delgado, Park. Need 20 cases of those new NVG batteries. Priority for the convoy team leaving tomorrow." Marcus stood slowly. "We're low on stock, Sergeant. I'll check what's available." Hayes waved a hand. "Make it happen. My name's on the request. Colonel wants it fast." As Hayes left, Marcus stared at the door. Lena shook her head. "Don't do anything stupid today." He didn't. Not yet. The days blurred in the familiar rhythm of base life. Morning PT in the dust. Long hours in the warehouse counting parts, signing hand receipts, dealing with frustrated NCOs. Dust storms that turned the sky orange. Care packages from home that arrived weeks late. The constant low-level tension of being in the region where missiles and drones were no longer abstract news. Recent Iranian strikes on other bases had everyone on edge, though Arifjan had stayed quiet so far. Marcus used the time to build his case. He started noticing patterns in Hayes' paperwork. Small discrepancies. Missing serial numbers on sensitive gear. Cases where Hayes signed off on equipment that later disappeared, only to show up on the black market rumors outside the wire. Nothing huge, but enough to raise flags if someone looked closely. One evening, after a long shift, Marcus sat on the hood of a broken-down MR8 with Staff Sergeant Maria Delgado, no relation, just shared last name, who had become something like a big sister figure on base. "You got that look again," she said, passing him a warm can of Ripid. "The one that says you're about to burn your own bridge." Marcus took a sip. "He killed my friend.
Not on purpose, maybe, but he was careless. And he got away with it because Daddy pulled strings. Maria nodded slowly. I have seen it before. Army protects its own sometimes. Doesn't make it right. But revenge? It's a heavy load, Rook. You carry it long enough, it starts carrying you. He didn't answer. Instead, he changed the subject to the latest rumor about bonus extensions for re-enlistment. But inside, the plan was forming. He would expose Hayes' sloppy logistics work, plant just enough evidence of negligence to trigger an investigation, watch Hayes sweat as his promotion chances evaporated, maybe even get him reassigned stateside in disgrace. It wasn't murder, but it was justice. Jamal deserved at least that. 2 weeks later, opportunity knocked. A major inventory audit was announced for the entire supply section. Perfect timing. Marcus stayed late one night, alone in the Connex. He carefully adjusted a few records on the computer system. Nothing obvious, just enough to make Hayes' previous sign-offs look questionable. He photographed documents with his phone. He even found a missing case of high-value parts that conveniently pointed back to Hayes' last convoy. His hands shook as he saved the files. This was it. One anonymous tip to the IG, Inspector General, and the machine would start turning. He was walking back to the barracks under the harsh perimeter lights when Lena caught up with him. I saw you in the shop after hours, she said quietly. What did you do? Marcus stopped. What I had to. She grabbed his arm. Rook, listen to me. I dug into the incident at Bliss. It wasn't just Hayes being careless. There was pressure from higher up to rush the training. Multiple people signed off. Hayes was the fall guy they chose because he was junior. Ruining him won't bring Jamal back. It'll just make you the new monster. He pulled away. You don't understand. I do, she said. My cousin died in a training accident too. The guy responsible? I wanted to destroy him. I almost did. Filed complaints, spread rumors. In the end, I only destroyed myself. Lost friends, almost got chaptered out. The anger ate me alive until I chose to let it go. Marcus looked at the stars above the desert. They looked the same as they did back in Texas the night Jamal died. The next morning brought chaos. Missile alerts blared across the base. Iranian drones had struck nearby installations again. Camp Arif John went into lockdown. Soldiers scrambled to bunkers. Marcus found himself in a hardened shelter with Hayes, Lena, Maria, and a dozen others. The tension was thick. Someone's radio crackled with updates. No direct hits on Arif John yet, but the region was heating up fast. In the dim red light of the shelter, Hayes looked shaken for the first time. No cocky grin, just a young man staring at the floor. Marcus watched him. The rage was still there, hot and familiar, but something else was creeping in. The words from Lena and Maria echoing louder than the sirens outside. When the all-clear finally sounded hours later, Marcus didn't go straight to submit his evidence. Instead, he walked to the small chapel tent near the topple. He sat alone for a long time. That evening, he deleted the files from his phone. He restored the records in the system. He burned the printed photos in a trash barrel behind the motor pool. Revenge tasted audacious. But letting go, it felt like breathing again for the first time in years. The following week, Marcus requested a meeting with his chain of command, not to report Hayes, but to request a transfer to a different section. He wanted distance. He wanted to start fresh. Hayes never knew how close he came to ruin. Months passed. The base continued its rhythm. Convoys rolling out, new soldiers arriving, dust storms, defact food that never improved. Tensions in the region rose and fell like the desert temperature. Marcus started running again in the mornings with Lena and a few others. He laughed more. He wrote real letters home instead of short texts. He began mentoring the new privates the way Jamal used to. One afternoon in the defac, Hayes sat down across from him unexpectedly. The cockiness was gone, replaced by exhaustion from the recent alerts. Hayes said quietly, Hey Delgado, I know we've never been friends, but thanks for covering that inventory mistake last month. Could have looked bad for me. Marcus looked at him for a long moment. The old anger flickered, then faded. We all make mistakes, he said finally. Some cost more than others. Just be careful out there. People are counting on you. Hayes nodded, surprised. Yeah, I will. As Hayes walked away, Marcus felt something shift inside his chest. Not forgiveness exactly, but release. Jamal's memory didn't demand blood. It demanded that Marcus live better. Become the kind of soldier his friend had been. Later that night, sitting on the same MR8 with Lena and Maria, Marcus told them what he had almost done. Maria whistled low. Damn, Rook. That took guts to walk away from. Lena smiled. Proud of you. He looked out at the perimeter lights cutting through the darkness. Beyond the fence, the desert stretched endless and indifferent. In the end, the desert taught its own lessons. Some debts could never be paid with destruction. The real victory was refusing to let the past turn you into the thing you hated. Marcus still carried Jamal's photo in his wallet. But now, when he looked at it, he smiled instead of clenching his jaw. The base continued its rhythm. Another deployment cycle. Another group of soldiers learning what it meant to serve far from home. And somewhere in the quiet hours between shifts, Specialist Marcus Delgado finally started healing. He had chosen light over darkness. And in the end, that was the only revenge that mattered.